Hi, I'm Jeff Young from Indianapolis, Indiana.
And I'm Bobby Lambert, Director of Bands at Wando High School in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. That Band Life, a podcast about making our careers as music educators more fulfilling so we can be happier, healthier, more productive, and more creative. We've got a really exciting show in store for everyone today, so Jeff, take it away.
Music for All is celebrating its 50 years of life-changing experiences through music, and the organization has recently welcomed a brand new CEO and president, Dr. James Weaver. Dr. Weaver joins Music for All from the National Federation of State High School Associations, where he was the Director of Performing Arts and Sports. His strategic leadership there helped shape national initiatives, strengthen partnerships, and champion the return and expansion of performing arts programs nationwide. He's also the current president, I think, of the National Music Council. Yes, I got confirmation on that. A respected voice for advancing arts advocacy across the country. From his young beginnings as a musician to his work as a teacher, administrator, and national advocate, Dr. Weaver has been driven by a passion to ensure students in every community have access to meaningful musical experiences. And now he brings that passion and vision to Music for All as he leads us into our next 50 years. Dr. Weaver, welcome to That Band Life.
Great. Thank you, guys. And it's always interesting to hear your own stuff being read and being like, did I really do all that?
Yeah. So we're usually pretty unscripted here on That Band Life, and Bobby and I like to just have conversations with important people in the activity, and we're really excited for today. So let's just start off. You were a bass player, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, and moderately successful bass player. We'll put it that
how
way.
did that change the trajectory of your life when you decided to play bass?
Yeah, so it was fascinating. I grew up in a small rural community in northeastern South Dakota. So technically the third largest city in the state, but that's less than 30,000 people. And when I was in fourth grade, my teachers took us into a music recruitment class for orchestra and saw the bass. I'm like, that's what I want to play. And it really did set up the rest of the trajectory of my life just by making that decision to join a music ensemble. I was the first person in my family to kind of go complete college, master's, doctorate. And so all of that decision started in that fourth grade room, being like, hey, doesn't the bass look cool? And would you like to play it? So,
yeah. My grandpa gave me a trumpet when I was in fourth grade. I didn't even know I wanted to play it, and then I had one and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah,
I'll play that.
And it was interesting because my family is fairly musical. Like my grandmother's a concert pianist and my grandfather was a saxophonist. And then it just kind of went away for a little while. So I kind of brought the resurgence of music back into the family.
Awesome. Did you start in fourth grade, Bobby?
No, started in fifth grade. And it was basically just a recruiting thing that our high school kids came down and played. And I thought the guy playing saxophone was cool. It's usually not more profound than that. Is like it kind of goes the spectrum, right? It's, and being in the right place at the right time, trying to give the real truth is we're probably exposed to music more times than we know. And I think what Dr. Weaver, as I've read some of the material, is interested in is making sure that those opportunities are pretty bountiful and numerous so that maybe it's not that time that you get them, but it's the third time or the fourth time that happens.
I mean, speaking of the guy being cool, right, with the saxophone, is my orchestra director, who became my orchestra director after that, he did the bass spin. And I was like,
there it is.
Right there.
There it is.
There's that awesome scene in Ted Lasso where you realize that one of the main characters plays bass.
Higgins.
Love that.
Yep.
Yeah, Higgins. Love that.
Yeah, and he's
scene.
actually quite good. And I think he actually plays it.
I think so too. When they do the jazz club thing in Amsterdam, if he's faking,
obvious.
he's the choreography is incredible.
Oh yeah. So I think he can actually play.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask maybe a tougher question here.
Right.
Why Music for All? Why now? You have been, as I read, you spent time in the classroom, and I think you've seen a pretty wide array of opportunity and access. And then to end up to be really honest with you, I had never heard of the National Federation of State High School Associations until COVID. And then that really kind of burst on the scene as being a voice that was sort of leading possibilities and protocols for what we were doing. So you spent time in that administration kind of place and advocacy. Then Music for All comes around. Why now? Why did you decide like this? I want to go to where I can be a little bit more specific and strategic, not fine arts and sports, just fine arts.
So that's a really good question. So I think I've got to take you on a little bit of a history journey, if that's okay.
Yeah.
So you're right. Started us off in an orchestra classroom. I was teaching. My first teaching job was a 4 through 12 orchestra program in a very small rural district in northwestern Minnesota called Perham, Minnesota. It was honestly, if I could have asked for a better start, I don't think I could have, except for the fact that I realized quickly that as you became successful, they required more success, but no more resources to go with it. Right? Welcome to rural.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But my teaching cohort I worked with at the time was fantastic. My administrators were fantastic. I learned a lot in the first couple of years that I was there. And then I had an opportunity to go back to my hometown, much larger district. So instead of a town of 2,800 people where I started, now I'm in a district that's like 5,000 people. And so the district itself was twice the size of the town I taught in. So it all came with that. So now I'm teaching a 4 through 8 program, north side. So I have a middle school and several elementary schools I'm teaching in, and then went up to the high school level. While doing that, I was doing my master's degree alongside the same thing and really kind of fell in love with the administration aspect of what we're doing. And I found that like learning really good administrative techniques in my master's program made me such a better teacher. In fact, I joke now that I'd be a much better teacher now than I ever was when I was actually teaching. Not because I have the pedagogical ability difference, but just knowing how systems work and knowing like how step 1 turns to step 2, turns to step 3, from that like higher level than inside the program perspective. So then taught there and became a disruptor in South Dakota, grew a giant program really quick. We went from 175 kids to 500 kids in 4 years. And so that was really exciting growth. Went into being a state association administrator. So this is my first administrative area where I was in charge of performing arts for the state of South Dakota and really enjoyed that work. Ironically, at that time, traveled too much, went into South Dakota in the largest city, which is Sioux Falls, and redesigned the curriculum with a $4 million curriculum redesign, and then came to the NFHS. So the NFHS has been around for 100 years, and I was very fortunate to get that opportunity to be the performing arts director. And to your point, Bobby, like the breadth of what we were talking about was super wide. And so like I was in charge of academic competition, speech, debate, theater, all the musics, at one time, boys and girls lacrosse and cheer and dance. So like that's a very wide. Yeah. Yeah. And like writing the rule books for boys and girls lacrosse and cheer and dance, and then figuring out what to do with the music and speech, debate, and theater space. And so what we focused on was they hired me in that position to grow what performing arts means in the National Federation. And so I was like, okay, so we can do this. So we focused on education, we focused on health and safety, we focused on proper administrative at the state levels, and how that can trickle down and create better programs at the local level. And so that's really where we started at. And that was in 2016. And where we exploded during the pandemic is as we were building all these other systems pre-pandemic, we were growing in that footprint. And then we became uniquely qualified to kind of mitigate the pandemic response.
You're like, we just talked about this. Here's an answer to your problem.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like it was kind of fate in a way, because the NFHS is an administrative body. So it's like we worked on health and safety, we worked on advocacy, we worked on messaging, worked on getting better buy-in with the states and getting the schools on board. And so when we're like, well, we think we can solve this, let's go do it. And that's the rest is history from there.
When you say you were the state administrator for fine arts, is that like a governor appointed thing? Does Indiana have one of those?
No. So it would be like, so Indiana has several different state associations. Same thing with South Carolina. So in South Dakota, it was the South Dakota High School Activity Association. So it's like if you're in Indiana, you combine the Athletic Association, Music Association, Speech Association, and Principals Association together. Mm-hmm. You get that association in the South Dakota.
I would bet Texas with the UIL is probably the closest thing, right?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Yep. And actually, the UIL is one of 28 states that are designed that way.
Wow. I didn't realize that. I thought that was more of a one-off, but...
No, No, only in the eastern part of the state is that all is fractured. So once you get farther west, Midwest and beyond, it's pretty much like that.
Huh.
I
So then
know.
to answer,
Yep, I
I'm
know.
sorry.
When I was in Illinois, we had the Illinois High School Association,
Yep.
which did govern loosely
Yep.
some of the
Some are
things.
stronger than others. So
Yeah, yeah,
yep.
absolutely. I think it's, like what's very cool is seeing Music for All where it is right now,
Yep.
kind of poised to lead the way for what's going on in classrooms and in the performance venues. As you're sitting there looking at this history, which is rich from the 50 years before, what are some of the things you're looking at in the next 50 years, or the possibilities that you'd like to see Music for All dive into?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I need to finish answering your last question first. Is why I'm here at the moment.
Okay.
I think I'm here at the moment because of where we're going to go in the next 50 years, right? So my administrative background is a different kind of hire than what Music for All has done in the past, and there's no shade on anyone who's been in this role before, but it is a turning point. And so, what I'm excited about is that I can really focus on music, and I can focus on expanding musical opportunities for what my phrase is every student in every zip code, right? How do we make that happen? And so what I'm excited about in the next 50 years is celebrating and honoring the last 50 years of excellence that Music for All has had, while looking at year 51 becomes a launching point of the next 50 years. And what does that mean for the programs that we offer, the access we're able to have, who we're able to bring into new programs? We live in a very large and very diverse country, and it's important to recognize that marching band definitely has its place in our area and in our history of what we're doing. But moving forward, we have mariachi groups, we have vocal, we have jazz. I mean, the list of music that goes on and on and on forever. And so, as we look at what do we do in the next 50 years, is how do we make that all part for all, right? We have to offer everything that we can for as many people as possible.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think it's really exciting to see where that can go. I mean, Bands of America is very marching band focused, and camp even is very marching band focused. But we're adding concert band, or we have added concert band. We're adding jazz band. I think there's a number of other opportunities there for summer camp as well. Just depends on who's interested in coming, and who are the best teachers who can provide that opportunity for students.
Yeah, we have to remember that Bands of America is one of the premier activities that students participate in marching band, and that cannot be downplayed at all. Like, it is, walking through it in this role in the first time. Like, I've always known it's been great. I've always known it provides amazing opportunities. Walking through it in this role, like, it is a premier experience for students, and we should be very proud of that.
I think one of the things that I've seen I came into Bands of America. My first experience was I did come to the summer camp, and got to experience that. But in 1998, I came to Grand Nationals, and that was the first time I'd ever really seen anything like that. And it was scary, overwhelming, all the things. And the thing that I've held on to that from the whole time is that this is a place where kids can truly feel proud of the accomplishment. Just getting to perform at one of these events is the win. And where we live in such an athletic, such a competitive culture, it's the one that administrators and parents can really understand and hold on to as well. So I see that idea of keeping Bands of America, that side of it, really strong. I think there are a lot of people that would echo that same sentiment. But the idea of, like, let's bring other things on board,
Yeah.
and that leads me to my question. Why do you think that some states or some organizations, like, what's the magic mixture to get more people involved and continue celebrating the excellence?
Yeah, that's a great question. So everything has to be kind of a yes and approach, right? Like, yes, marching band is important, And it's important for a lot of reasons, right? Like marching band is the Friday Night Lights experience that exists in communities across the United States. But it's the yes and approach. And so as we look at programmatic expansions, we need to look at like what gaps exist. Where do we have areas where we know we can engage students and engage educators in real meaningful ways, and then find out where we go next. So I like to do a lot of study and listening to see where we're going to go. So I love the idea of a mariachi component, because it's a new segment that is exploding all over the country. But it's also an area we can take our operational expertise and our music education expertise and apply it to a grander national audience. Because people who enjoy mariachi music live everywhere in the country, just like people who enjoy marching band live everywhere in the country.
Sure.
And so we need to be kind of thinking on that approach as well. So
It's interesting you say that. I teach at a camp in Utah, in Salt Lake City, and one of our other directors who helps teach that is the head of mariachi in the state of Utah.
yeah,
And he said, it went from like just a few schools to now it is blowing up all over the place. So I think in real time we're seeing that as well.
yeah, I agree. And as the country continues to grow, it will continue to spread in different ways. Like we have populations that enjoy these types of musics everywhere, like we had mentioned. And I mean, one of the biggest mariachi centers is where you wouldn't think it'd be. It's up in Seattle, Washington, right? So it's
Really,
yeah, so huge mariachi up there. And it's not going to be bigger than like San Antonio or Las Vegas or
well, yeah, but outside of that,
but outside
sure.
of that area, like it's massive up in Seattle, Washington. So
Isn't that Marsha Neal's main? Like she's an expert in that from Yamaha.
oh yeah, I mean nobody knows more about this than Marsha Neal.
Yeah.
I mean, and
Good friend of the camp.
yeah, and nobody has more energy than Marsha either. So.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to shift us just a little bit from Music for All and those things to get a little bit more so that I think there are a lot of people who have questions about who is this person, who is Dr. James Weaver at Music for All. And so I'm going to start kind of at the 10,000 foot view and say, okay, your leadership style as it has evolved and been in different permutations from the classroom to the boardroom. What do you feel like is maybe some of the strong things that you bring to the table, but also what are some of the things where you feel like it's imperative to me that like you said earlier about listening and studying, that already tells me a lot, but what are some other leadership attributes that you bring that you want to, kind of show to everybody hearing this?
Yeah. So, and Jeff can certainly disagree if I say something. He's like, I haven't seen that yet. But I really, I believe I'm a collaborative leader that at the end of the day will make the decision. But I love to have the input of people who know more than I do in the room, which at this point is a lot of people. But at the same time, like I love to bring connections together. So this is like I think I have a very collaborative nature as far as leadership style, and then trying to find the connections of like, oh great, I love what you're saying over here, and I know you guys in this department will work together well. But if you ever thought of this person way over here who's not even in our organization, who has an expertise we can bring in, and so, but at the end of the day, I'm also not afraid to make a decision. So it's like, all right, we've heard everything, and now this is the direction we're going to go. And I'd like to say I've been that way for a long time, but yeah. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that from I've known you for only a couple months now, but I had told Bobby the story of I gave you a whole binder, when you came to Music for All, that was like, here's what camp is, here's who teaches it, here's what it's all about, here's my story of the 20 years of teaching it, and Bailey, who is our camp coordinator, here's her story and just some various things. And the next day we met and you had, Post-it notes and circled things and written in the margins and there were questions. And I just really appreciated how much you studied that and actually took the time to care what it was all about and then have meaningful questions. I think it took me 2 weeks to answer your questions because they were so in depth.
Yeah, and it was good. I
appreciate that.
And I really appreciate having all the information. I'm a big fan of data-driven decision making. And, we can't make some of the decisions we make are massive and have huge impacts. And so it's important that everyone's on the same page as far as figuring out what we're going to do. and I appreciated the binder. I remember going through it and I was like, man, there's just so many good things in here. Uh, and I love asking hard questions or questions that aren't hard but seem obvious but aren't asked.
Were there any big surprises when you arrived at, oh, I didn't know we did that at Music for All? I mean, for people who just go to fall events, like everybody knows we put on a good marching band show, if not the best, right? But like event planning and execution is such a huge part of what Music for All does outside of, advocacy and education, that sort of thing. Anything surprising when you got there?
So I don't think like in that structural sense surprising, because I've been working with Music for All since essentially I moved to Indianapolis for the NFHS in one way or another, right? Like one of the areas of my other claim to fame is the copyright compliance information we really worked on there. And Music for All uses a lot of that copyright compliance information even today. So I had a pretty good understanding of it. I think what would surprise people, and maybe my biggest surprise, was the nonstop nature of all the activities in the office, right? Like it's funny because everyone's like, oh, it's going to slow down after the fall event. And I'm like, how? We turn around and we have a week and then it's Thanksgiving. And then 3 weeks after that, we're leaving for the Turner Roses parade. And then we come back and we have like a week where it's kind of down. And I'm using air quotes here, but where the schedule's kind of down. And then 3 weeks later, it's like, all right, we're getting into festival. And then we're getting into National Ensemble. And then we're diving into camp prep. And then 3 weeks later, we're in camp. And now all of a sudden we're starting the fall season again. And so I think that the thing that surprised me the most is just how good the staff is at just this constant breakneck speed. And then the level of execution that never seems to fail. And so I think that's the part that's amazing to me right now in a very, very positive way.
That's a big team with lots of varied talents and job descriptions.
Yeah. Well, and we're just talking about events at that moment, right? But like you look at what the education department does. And I mean, people think of camp as the week long, but like you're working on camp all year. That's to make sure that it's as successful as humanly possible, which I think it will be for sure this year.
Well, I was just going to say, I know that Jeff had told me that a lot of this first month that you've had was kind of the listening tour. It was a little bit of like trying to get your finger on the pulse of the organization. And I'm sure that you have done that. As you see the stakeholders outside of that, what are some of the things that you maybe have said, like, okay, I hear a need for this, or I hear an approval of something. I hear like, as you're trying to listen to all of this and process it, are there some ideas starting to form? We mentioned the mariachi thing before, but are there some ideas that are starting to form that you're hearing from the community at large asking for?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I would say not quite yet. I think everyone has their ask ready. They're just not asking it yet. And I think come November 16th, that floodgate will be wide open, right? Like
there it is.
Grand Nationals ends. Staff walks out at 2:00 in the morning, the 16th. And I'm expecting the asks will start coming in like 8 a.m. on the 16th.
Here's all the ideas.
Right, exactly.
Which is exactly how it works at the high school level, because I'll get that Monday morning. I didn't want to bother you during marching season, but here are 12 things that I've been wanting to talk to you about.
And by the way,
let's start
you on Friday.
Yes, let's start them now. Yes, absolutely.
So I think the thing that I've been hearing the most is like, I spent the last 2 months really just kind of listening and learning. I walked through, I think, Jeff, we spent an hour with every director level staff, just diving through the departments. What do you need? What's been a thing in the past that we can move forward on? Where do you see this going by 2030? And I had the same conversation with most of our external core partners, and the same conversation with all of our board members to try to start creating what that ecosystem looks like. And so right now, there's a lot of good trends that come on. Like people are very happy with the position that Music for All is in right now. And I think that says a lot of success to what we've been doing the last 50 years. They're excited to see where we can grow in different ways, right? Like, and not just necessarily in events, but what are we doing in the advocacy space? What are we doing in the education landscape? Those kinds of things, right? Like, how do we engage schools more? Like, how do we combine some of the education components with participant relations and make sure that the entire ecosystem is being represented? So I think the immediate things that I'm seeing now is like, how do we take what we already have and make it more efficiently digestible for everyone from the national level to the states levels to the school level to the individual director level. I think that's the part that we're really going to have to look at. How do we do that? And then ensuring what we have is the right fit for all the stakeholders that exist in our ecosystem. And Music for All's ecosystem is very large. If people think of it just as, the Fall Bands of America, and I shouldn't just say just, because there's 600,000 kids that go through there, right? And so nearly 1,000 schools. So it is a behemoth of an incredible program. But if that's all they view us as, they're missing the other, huge chunk of what we can offer. For example, like we're one of the backbone organizations for the Teach Music Coalition, which is trying to find new music teachers to get in classrooms and stay in classrooms. Backbone organization of Music is Education, which is a massive advocacy tool that has an AI chatbot built into it that can help with advocacy messages. If you are a parent and need to go speak to the school board about, program expansion or saving or whatever we need to talk about. And so those kinds of things, we just need to figure out how to make that more efficient. And then the asks for expansion will, I think, naturally come after that.
I'm going to veer off our script just a little bit.
Absolutely.
And Jeff just got a little nervous. No, this isn't
No,
bad.
I hate it when we have a script, Bobby.
I know. We're like, I don't know what to do with this.
We're like so square when we have a script.
But we've been good. We've been good. It's been great. So, Dr. Weaver, I think that, and this is something I don't understand. So I'm coming into it announcing my ignorance already. So you may have to educate many of us on this. I think that the educational, the advocacy, all those things, we see that really very clearly. And the idea of the expanding the for all part of that, absolutely. And this you may even say, I don't know, which is fine.
Yeah.
But the legislative part of music in state, local, national government is a really, like, it seems like it fits in place. A lot of things can be. And if it's not, it's usually a disaster in that particular area of the country. I can think of several states where there are great people. You talked about being in the Dakotas. I was in North Dakota a little bit earlier this year, and just incredible teachers and students, like all over the place. But when I start talking about, well, here's how we raise money for this, here's how we do that, they're like, yeah, we can't do that here. We can't do that. So I know that legislative part is really important. And from being from the National Federation group, that was a big part of it, right? Am I understanding that correctly?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Figuring out how to craft messages for advocacy is massive.
Right. So what do you think are some of the things that you want to see Music for All do in that legislative role? Or what are some things that you hope that the people who are supporting and stakeholders, what do you want to see us do to kind of get that message to our legislators even better?
Yeah, no, I love that question. So Music for All itself is we're the wrong kind of nonprofit to be that kind of lobbying firm, right? There's very strict rules that go with whatever your last number is. And so our last number is a 3, which means our lobbying efforts are very restricted, right? So if we were a 6...
I just so that we make sure, a 501c3 is what you're talking about right now. Yep.
And then if you're a 501c6, that allows you to do lobbying, right? Like there's different kinds of things there.
Okay.
And so, but what we can do, and I think we are doing and will expand to do, is helping people understand how to advocate at a legislative level. And legislative level is not necessarily a state or national. It could be your school board, right? It could be the legislative level that happens within your own school, let alone a district. Like it can get very small on the legislative level. The advice that I have for people getting into this is engage. Right. It's not difficult to do. So I go every year, a couple times a year, and talk to my daughter's school board. She loves it when I bring her with. That's not true. She hates it. But all I've been doing lately is going there and be like, hey, thank you for supporting the orchestra program here. She's in orchestra. My older son's in band. So I was like, thank you for supporting the middle school orchestra program. Thank you for supporting the high school band program. And they never get thanked, right? But you can't just go in there with a problem right off the bat and say, I need you to fix this now. You have to build those. We are in the relationship business. You need to build those relationships. I think it's also important to use the language that the legislative branches are using. Music is a nonpartisan issue, right? not bipartisan. It is a nonpartisan issue, which means everybody, if they think about it, likes music. And we need to remind them of that and using the language that they use. So in Indiana, we had a big shift in graduation requirements last year that are going into effect in 2030, 2032, somewhere in there. Well, what they're doing is they're changing those requirements to focus on the 3 E's of the administration, which is employment, enrollment, or enlistment, right? So they want every kid graduating in Indiana high school to be ready for employment, be ready for military service or other sort of civil service, or be ready to go into higher education. Well, great. Music should be using those same terms, right? Like, all right, you want to go into employment? Great. When you are in band, choir, orchestra, show choir, mariachi, whatever you're in, we're going to teach you teamwork. We're going to teach you dedication. We're going to teach you grit. We're going to teach you resilience. We're going to teach you critical thinking skills, all these things. Great. What do you need as an employer? Those things.
All those things.
Those things, right? And we do that in spades. Like we take 400 kids because I think music teachers are the most insane people ever, right? Like, oh, you have 110 kids in your classroom for 7th period. What can we do is like, I need 20 more, right?
Yeah, give me more.
Yeah, give me more.
And you work more hours.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Right. But what happens is it's the only place in the school where you can take 400 kids, depending on the size of your school, right? But you can take a giant population at school and say, hey, we're going to teach you all of these things, and we're going to demonstrate it publicly, right? Mm-hmm. And so we need to use that terminology in our advocacy, like use the words they're using because that's what they want to hear. We can't take a message from 5-10 years ago and say, remember, music's important. And they're like, well, why? Because it's good for kids. It's inherently good for kids. We should start with that as the base level and then move forward to there. Like, so if workforce development is the thing that's happening in your states, which is in most states, we already do what they want us to do. We just need to remind them of that.
Yeah. And I think that's the most valuable 3 minutes of the podcast right there, because I hadn't thought about it in those terms, but as you say it, I'm like, oh my God, absolutely. That's exactly what they need to hear. They need to hear what we're doing. And I think if it gets emotional, it's just good for kids' hearts. Yeah. You're done. Like, that's great. There are a lot of things that we would say are good for kids' hearts, but what is this doing to expand and push forward the agenda of being workforce ready?
Well, I'm sure Emily would like us to mention the Advocacy and Action Awards too, because that's kind of a misunderstood thing that Music for All does. That is really, it's as much about giving an award to somebody who did something interesting, but it's also a repository for ideas of like, this worked in my school district or in my community, and you could just use it.
Yep. And that's a great point, because nothing you'll do in advocacy is going to be brand new. What I love about it is there's a story about how Ben and Jerry started their ice cream shop, and I'll give you the very truncated version of it. Like, they just kept moving north until no one had ice cream, and then they didn't know how to start the business, so they ordered the Small Business Administration's pamphlets and just followed the step-by-step on the pamphlet. They applied for a loan by copying the loan papers from the friend of theirs that owned a pizza shop. And then poof, we have Ben and Jerry's. They didn't create anything except for the ice cream. Everything else, they just copied off of other people and that was successful. If you go in to start talking to legislators, whether it's your school board or your state, your national legislators, or your principal or superintendent, you don't need to do anything new. Music for All, the NFHS, NAFME, NAM, they already have all the resources you could ever have to have these conversations. You just have to go do the conversation. And then as you get good at it, you'll figure out how to make it even more impactful for your specific constituency.
Well, Dr. Weaver, I have a sneaking suspicion that you were in your classroom and things were going great. And it wasn't like, you know what, I'm just tired of music. I have a sneaking suspicion that there was a need that led you into communicating with administrators or possibly even legislators in your area that kind of made you realize, okay, I've got to cure the disease rather than just deal with the symptoms that are happening in these places. And I think that's that message to all of our director friends here are, if you're getting frustrated, if this is your 4 of the same thing over and over, learn how to advocate. Don't just continue to gripe and moan or say, well, I'm going to go somewhere else, because there are problems everywhere. And just go try to cure the disease rather than just live with or stomach the symptoms over and over.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And when I was teaching, like I had very open communications with my principals because they wanted the programs to grow, right? They wanted these things to happen. I was very fortunate. When I was in Aberdeen on the north side, I had a principal who, Greg Oz, he's a great guy. He's like, I need every kid in this school involved in something. So you need to grow the orchestra numbers, the band numbers, choir numbers, because everybody has to be involved. And for every kid that we can't get involved in music, we're going to get them involved in athletics. And I was like, okay. And he's like, for everybody we can't get involved in athletics or music, we're going to find something for them. So he found all this like little tiny dollar amounts to start getting kids in like a chess club, a frisbee club, or whatever. But you know what happened 5 years later when they're out of middle school? The graduation rate exploded because those kids had a place to be. And it was like, that was a fascinating approach. And that's really stuck with me about like how the access to having good activities that do good things for kids is vitally important. And for the directors out there, like we don't have to do that work. In fact, a lot of times we can't, nor should we do some of this work. But we have parents and hundreds of parents that are willing to do this for us if we just tell them what the message is and ask them to do the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Send them forth to do it.
Yeah. And a parent message is way stronger than a school district employee message, right? Like,
yeah, how true is that? South Carolina, we spent, they told me 35 years the state organization had tried to get PE credit for marching band. And then two parents, really one parent, decided this is going to happen. And 2 years later,
this is the hill I'm going to make my stand on.
Now that doesn't happen with any and every parent for sure,
right.
but it is built that idea. We talk about leadership in our classrooms about building relationships, and really what you're saying is, it's the exact same thing with the adults in your building and outside your building.
Right.
This shouldn't be a fear thing. I think people are afraid to talk to their administrators and they're afraid to talk to city council. And when it's like, hey, we want the same thing.
Yeah.
We want the best for our community. We want the best for the kids that are here. Here's a way that I can do that and can help you.
Well, and remember that the people you're talking to are just people, right? At the end of the day,
yeah.
They may be elected officials and they have some power and authority over the community that we live in, but we all live in that same community. At the end of the day, they walk out of that council room or the school board room and they go to the same grocery store you go to, and they probably go to the same gas station you go to, and they have their own day jobs. They're just people who want to make a difference. And when you go advocate in these legislative bodies, you're also just a person who wants to make a difference. Right. It's just your role is different. And I think people need to remember that like I remember the first time I went to the U.S. Senate to go do advocacy work up there, and I was very nervous to meet my first senator. And this is a guy that I'd actually known personally before I went out there, but now it's like a whole different power dynamic. And I walk in, and he's like, "You nervous?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I've never seen you," because he was a guy in my district. He's like, "I've never seen you nervous." I'm like, "I just don't know." He's like, "We're just two guys from South Dakota." I was like, yeah, that's a really solid point, right? Like, it's a really solid point.
Yeah.
And then you were magically not nervous. And no, you're still nervous. But.
Well, I was a lot less nervous, right? And I became less nervous as the day went on. And now I go to DC to do the arts advocacy stuff. And I just started walking. I'm like, hey, everybody, like I got stuff for you. And I know that you want to hear it. I just have to figure out how you want to hear it. So.
You strike me as somebody who'd be a great coach at anything. I'm curious, who's your favorite coach that you've ever had, or director, or leader of some kind in an activity you were doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would have to say Bruce Hoagland, my college orchestra director, maybe the kindest human being I've ever met. And you knew you disappointed him when he didn't say anything. Like he would just get quiet and you're like, oh God, he hates everything about this right now. But he was so good at forming young college students into being exceptional human beings. And doing it with a baton and from the podium, right? Mm-hmm. And I just remember one time I was struggling with a lot of things, as we all do in college. And he just walked up next to me and he's like, "It's gonna be okay. You're gonna figure this out." I was like, "Yeah, okay." Maybe I just needed to hear that at the moment, right?
Yeah.
He was just so good, and I tried carrying that through, like when I was teaching, and even now, like Jeff hears me say it all the time, like, "Well, we're gonna figure it out, right? We're gonna get it. We'll get there." And then I coached middle school basketball. And that was when I did that, it was the time where we had the most middle school orchestra kids in middle school basketball. And
and how did that mixture work out for you?
Better than one would think. But I just remember too, like, when we're doing passing fundamental drills, all I was thinking was like, don't break your finger, don't break your finger. We have contact tomorrow, right? Like, but yeah, I would say Bruce.
Well, that's something I noticed about you right away, Dr. Weaver, is that I like to be coached. That's why I do CrossFit. I hate every moment of being at CrossFit, but I like being coached. I like just walking in and having somebody say, here's what we're doing today. Yeah. Just stay with me. My cat is.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm glad we're not showing the video
against the microphone right now. It's kind of weird. Okay. Sorry.
We just had somebody.
Who's your favorite coach, Bobby?
Well, I was going to say, we just had somebody in working with the band, and he really changed the dynamic of the rehearsal last night. It was raining on us, and we don't do really well. I mean, like, it was cold here. It was all of 58, and we were dying. But he said, hey, when you get to this drill set, help out your team. Yeah. And what it was they had to just land in these straight columns. And he said, make your neighbors look good. Make your friends look good. Yeah. And like, just that, instead of make sure you cover down, make sure you do this, make sure, it was, hey, help your team.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of like when we were doing the pandemic response, right? Like my co-chair, and I should have mentioned this at the beginning, my co-chair is Dr. Mark Speed out of Clemson, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he and I did so much work together, and I feel like he was like a life coach for me during the pandemic. And I think we were for each other because the work was extremely hard and the stakes were incredibly high. Like, if we would have messed that up, it could have just been really bad for everybody. So like, he's another guy describing exactly what you're saying, just like, well, how do we make this happen for the thing? Like, it's not like we have to create that result. It's how do we uplift everyone else at the same time? And in my opinion, Mark is a master at that as well.
Jeff, you asked me about mine. Boy. I personally, Greg Bim and Bob Buckner. And it was, with Bob, it was the succinctness. He, just like you were talking about, Dr. Weaver, about how just came and said, you're going to be okay. It's all right. There was a calm confidence with Bob that I thought was really great. And with Greg, it was always thoughtful and introspective and sincere. So I kind of had both ends of that spectrum to help me with that. And when you talk about, I do coachings now for band directors. No lie, I got 3 different phone calls yesterday from coaching clients saying, hey, this just happened. I'm about to lose my mind. And we talked for about 15, 20 minutes, and I could hear the level go down. I think we're living in a time where people kind of have everything's okay, everything's on fire, and there's not a lot in between. And working through those things of like, hey, we will figure this out. Maybe not today, but we will. Like, just know the end game is there. And I think Dr. Weaver's kind of showing us the end game is really much bigger than just getting this concert out there or just getting this on the field. It is making sure that music has a seat at the table in the larger scale of the world.
And Bob Morrison will tell you in advocacy land, right? If you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So,
wow. Yeah. Yep. That's painfully accurate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's definitely at the table, so he would know.
Yeah. Talk about an advocate Hall of Famer, right? Like,
So to kind of move us to the latter half of this, you've gotten to speak to a lot of points in this. If you could speak directly to students and educators that Music for All serves, what's something you would want them to know about you or your thoughts on the program or the company?
Yeah, I mean, the mission of providing, creating, enhancing life-changing opportunities through music is not something that is a slogan, and it's not something that is said just because we want it to sound good. It is, I truly believe, and I think this is core to the entire staff as well as everyone who helps move Music for All forward, is that we truly believe that is the case. When you walk through one of our programs, you're using our educational materials, you're becoming an advocate in action, you're doing X, Y, and Z through the entire process. We watch every day students come off of our programs having their life positively changed. And I think it's incumbent on us to take that to heart and understand that when we do our programs and we create our resources, it's not just to have a resource packet out there. It's not just to do something. It is to say, we truly believe that when you go through a Music for All experience, it will be a life-changing experience in a positive way.
Can I before Jeff asks the last question, I have to jump in here because I had an interesting thing happen the other day. I've been doing, like I said, 1998, and the life-changing part of that mission statement has been echoed over and over and over. Yeah. Almost so to the point where people are like, "Oh yeah, boy, this was life-changing." This is, so there's a little bit of tongue in cheek about it. Yeah. And I used to think that means we don't care about it. We have a slogan here at Wando in our band program: great people doing great things. Mm-hmm. And the kids we've had it for years, and the kids have been like, "Oh yeah, great people." And I thought that was like, okay, they're disrespectful to it. That's not it. It's more like it has become such a part of the fabric of what we do that they acknowledge it by kind of being a little tongue in cheek about it. Like they do want it to be great. We do want life-changing events for this, because we're coming to Grand National so that our parents can see what bands across the country are doing. Yeah. That's it. And when we leave there, I know for the next 2 to 3 years, those particular parents of freshmen and sophomores now are going to help guide the direction of our program. Yep. And so that idea of life-changing is not taken lightly. And while we maybe joke about it in the trenches a little bit, we all know that if we didn't have that venue, fewer people would care about what we're doing.
Yeah. Well, and then you look at what happens the day after you leave, right? Like, what is your goal for them on the 16th? And guess what, parents? You now have just seen the spectacle that turns into an advocacy message that we're going to take back to our school boards and our principals and our other parents and our future students. They now become that message because they had a life-changing experience in a positive way by coming to Bands of America Grand Nationals.
I have a couple thoughts just to close us out here, but so I have a backpack, Music for All Bands of America backpack, and it's actually a really great backpack. So I travel everywhere with it, even if it's not a band related trip. And the number of people who've stopped me in an airport, I just lost count. They're like, "Oh yeah, my cousin's sister's daughter is in the color guard in a Bands of America group," or, "Oh yeah, I went to camp a number of years ago." Like, it's just so many stories. It's an awesome responsibility being the leader of an organization where no matter where you go in the country, somebody's going to see the logo or hear about it and have a story about it. So I'm just curious, as we look 10 years down the road, what do you hope that kids and parents and people are saying about Music for All?
Yeah, I think just that. I mean, and Jeff knows this, you guys see it on the monitor, but I wear a Music for All shirt every day. And I proudly wear the logo every day because it does have that impact where people will stop you and be like, "My niece was a color guard in this regional, and they just had an amazing experience and we're excited." I was actually at the airport as well, Jeff. I was on a call. I was doing an interview with the St. Louis Dispatch newspaper. And the guy sitting across from me afterwards was like, "Hey, did I hear you are part of Bands of America or Music for All?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Let me tell you about how great my kids had an experience on this." And he just went after it. And it's like, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking of the story again. And he's like, "So what do you do at Music for All?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm the CEO and president." And he's like, "Wait, what?" And,
what?
Right. And I was like, that's what I want to bring with, right? This humble leadership that just says we have done amazing things for students on and off the field. And we've advanced the music education ecosystem in a way that's meaningful and impactful and continues to have growth. Because we know that going back to the crazy music director, right? Like, I got 110 kids. I need 130 now. Like, having that space for every student who wants to participate, I think, is incumbent on us to make sure that happens. So in 10 years from now, I'd love to turn around and say, can you believe how much we've done in 10 years and the access we're providing for all these kids and the life-changing experiences for everybody? And we did it with excellence and humility and just making sure that the entire ecosystem advances forward.
Oh, that's wonderful. I hope that too. I think we all do. And Bobby and I really appreciate you being with us today. We want to get you on to your next appointment, but I'm actually surprised I could get you and Bobby on at the same time. It's a miracle.
Yeah.
But
I'm glad it worked.
But we appreciate you and our 12 to 15 listeners. I'm sure we'll appreciate getting to know you a little bit more. I was going to ask you a little bit more about what you like to do outside of band, but we're running out of time. So maybe next time,
we'll do
maybe we can revisit in a year. Yeah. But thank you. And until next time, I'm Jeff Young.
And I'm Bobby Lambert.
And this has been That Band Life.